Welcome aboard the Finding Joy at Sea podcast. This podcast is for anyone who loves to hear the stories behind the stories of life at sea. Whether you work in the industry, love cruising, or are thinking about a new career, you're in the right place. I am your host, Laura Fraser, a 20-plus year cruise industry veteran and the author of the Joy at Sea series of children's books. I love sharing the joy of the journey. So, anchors away. It's time to set sail. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Finding Joy at Sea podcast. I am your host, Laura Fraser, and I am so excited to just spend some time with you this morning, this afternoon, this evening, whenever you're listening, to go over some reflections and some thoughts that I had over the last week. As any of you know that are following us on social media, we were in Miami last week meeting with some amazing friends and vendors for Joy at Sea and all of her friends. And walking into those rooms was just such a reminder how every decision we make throughout our lives to be brave, to put ourselves out there, put us in situations we could have never dreamt about maybe in the past. It's also been a season of, my daughter and her friends and nieces and nephews, and so many of us having kids going off into that new chapter of life, maybe going off to school, maybe moving out on their own, but making these really brave decisions to kind of go into the unknown has been a real time of reflection for me on my journey to ships and making that brave decision to go and do something totally out of the ordinary for me and be really brave. So I wanted to talk about bravery today because I think it's something so many of us struggle with at different seasons of our lives. And I know some of us are more brave than others. Some of us are more risk averse than others for a myriad of reasons, whether it be, some of your personality, some of your upbringing, some of the opportunities that have maybe gone right or gone wrong in your past. But bravery, really like most things, is a spectrum. And we can feel really brave in some areas and feel really scared in other areas. And I know for myself, I've had tremendous fear in some areas of my life and have worked through a lot of that. So I want to just spend some time talking about being brave. Because if you're thinking about going to work on a cruise ship, or you're thinking about pursuing a new venture, or writing the book, or starting the podcast, or doing any of these things, bravery is going to be something that you're going to have to get comfortable with and get better at. And I think with all of our emotions, like there's just an opposite emotion to it, right? So fear is the opposite of being brave. And fear serves us in a lot of ways in our life. It protects us in a lot of different ways, but it also stops us more times than not in situations that feel dangerous, but are actually not. And so I've used some tools over the last, decade, or, well, I mean, longer, actually. I've used some tools over the last several parts and journeys of my life that I think might be helpful to you if you're listening today. So for me, one of my brave decisions in early adulthood was to go work on a cruise ship. I had only been on one cruise in my life, and I was 11 at the time. So by the time I went to work on ships, I really didn't remember that much about it and didn't know much about the industry, but I knew I wanted to seek this adventure. As I talked about on my very first podcast, those first few days were challenging. And it taught me that anytime you're starting something new, whether that's a new job, whether that's a new city that you've moved to, whether it's a new relationship, whatever it is that's new in your life, those first few weeks are going to feel uncertain. You're going to feel like maybe you made a wrong choice. You're going to feel like, are you even able or prepared to do this? And I can tell you that usually within the first 2 weeks, a lot of that uncertainty, that uncomfortableness fades away and you find your footing. And I have repeated this to several different young adults over the last few weeks who have moved into their next chapter of life as they've, left high school and moved on to college or young adulthood. You need to just take a breath and get through that first few weeks. After that, the dust really starts to settle. You find your way around, you know what to expect a little bit more. And you, in a very short period of time, forget what it was even like to feel that way in the very beginning. I think that I've also learned along the way, those first few weeks of anything new are incredibly helpful. You get one chance to not know what you didn't know. So when I started my last professional corporate job, it was my first time walking into a brand new company and having that opportunity to not know a lot. And I made notes about what I didn't know because it helps you then form better questions. So, in the beginning, you don't know who to go to for information. You don't know what the process is for getting a project up and running or across the finish line. You don't know what the processes are. And I think, depending on your personality type, for me, when I don't know, I feel very uncertain and I feel very incompetent. And it was putting myself in those situations of unknowing that helped me realize I'm not incompetent. I just don't know what I don't know. And as soon as I learn a couple of things, then I'm going to be able to make better suggestions, better judgments, help, move the needle forward. And it's just a building process. I think if you're typically a person who's kind of hard on yourself for not knowing everything, then those situations really do. They make you feel um, uncomfortable, uneasy. And that's why I stayed stuck in a career for so long, because I had gotten good at it and I could do it confidently and competently. And I didn't have to have that uncomfortable feeling of, oh, now what do I do? And stretching myself and putting myself in situations where I don't know how to do it has actually been such a gift. And it's the thing that you're afraid to do. And then when you do it, you realize, oh, wow, this actually has given me a lot of confidence to feel like I can do it in other areas of my life. So bravery itself, it's never the absence of fear. Fear will be there, but it's asking yourself, is this fear truly legitimate? What are some of the worst things that could happen? And what if they don't happen at all and I'm successful? Or what if they do happen? Will I still be okay? I think living through so many different life experiences, both on ships and, in normal everyday life that I have been able to overcome, has given me the ability to say, if everything goes wrong, and it probably won't, because things don't generally all go wrong, but if everything goes wrong, will I be okay? And the answer is always yes. It's always yes. For me, there is not one outcome that isn't good for me. I'm either going to be learning, I'm going to be growing, or quite frankly, I'll be gone. And that's okay for me. I live with such a deep faith and excitement for what comes after this life that actually the worst case scenario is never that bad. So I think that that is a really free way to live. And it has helped me to be really brave in lots of areas of my life. But as you're kind of working through that bravery cycle, that bravery fear cycle that kind of live hand in hand, some of the things that help is silly things like singing a song. I don't know if you guys have seen the viral video, and I will try and put it into this podcast for you if I can, but it's the most entertaining video, and a guy is singing a song about how he does it anyway. I do it anyway. I do it mad. I do it sad. I do it glad. I do it anyway. I do it depressed. I do it obsessed. I do it anyway. Because that's what it takes to win this game, is how he ends the song. And it came across my feed, I would say it was more than a year ago. It was when we had a lot of uncertainty around my daughter's health and then my son's health unexpectedly. We unexpectedly had to have my son have open heart surgery out of nowhere. We didn't know he had a heart problem, and then suddenly he's going in for open heart surgery. And I'm trying to still keep my life together and do my job. And that song came across my feed, and it's just like a silly little song that somebody's singing, but what a gift. Because I realized, yeah, we are doing it anyway. We're doing it glad, we're doing it sad, we're doing it mad, but we're doing it anyway. And that's the part I think that just clicked for me. It's like, I can still do this. Even with all this other stuff going on, I can do this. And that's what it's going to take to win. And I think once you push through the things that you think you can't overcome, the freedom on the other side of that is so profound and so powerful. And it's really easy to forget. And it's really easy to get back in those cycles of like, oh, what if, will I survive? Will it be okay? Will we get through this? It's important to look back at all of the things that you have survived already in the past, all of the things that once felt really difficult and now feel really easy and familiar because you kept doing them time after time and pushing through. So that's my number one thing is look back at your wins. Look at all the bad days that you survived, all of the hard things you survived, all of the steps you've taken to get where you are today. And know that if you've done it before, you can do it again and keep going. Do it anyway. Don't talk yourself out of it. Just get to it and do it anyway. I let feelings now come, I feel them, and I let them pass, I let them go. I really try hard not to get in that negative cycle of reliving conversations, replaying conversations. What could I have done differently? How could this outcome have gone better? It's important to look back at something that maybe went right or went wrong and quickly, take account of what was successful and what wasn't, but then move on and take that knowledge forward, whether it be good or bad. Don't keep replaying it because you're going to get quick insights, you're going to make better decisions, and then you're going to move on to the next thing. And just know we have lots of opportunities to fail in this life, and it will be okay. All is well. Even a failure doesn't have to define you. It can just be something that happened and you learned from it and you moved on. It's the true failure is actually just not trying at all, not thinking that you're capable of it. I have had this story of Joy in my heart for a couple of years, and seeing her come to the finish line holding the physical copy of the book in my hand for the first time was a really profound moment, because throughout my life, I've had lots of great ideas, lots of businesses I wanted to start, lots of things I wanted to pursue, and lots of things that I either talked myself out of doing from fear or just other things got in the way. And that's okay. For many years, I was very disappointed in all of the versions of Laura that never were. And now I can sit here saying all of those versions, they might have been totally successful. They might have been the most amazing path that I decided to take at that time. But none of those versions am I mad at, because all of those ideas, all of those things have prepared me for what I actually am today. And this version of me today won't be the version of me next year, 2 years from now, 10 years from now. We get to keep chasing the things we want to chase and coming to peace with the things that maybe we are disappointed that we didn't do. So I think that that's also a really good way to look at past failures, because oftentimes past perceived failures, right? Because they're not even truly failures, but past perceived failures will creep into what we're trying to accomplish and do now and be brave for now, and tell us like, oh, come on, Laura, but are you really going to do it this time? Are you really going to be brave? What if no one likes your book? What if no one buys your book? What if everyone thinks your book is stupid? All of these crazy things that we can talk ourselves out of from taking that next step, talk back to them and say, but what if everybody likes my book? What if only I like my book, but I know I got to hold it in my hands and feel proud of myself for getting it to this point? Is that even just that enough? I'll never forget when I took my first copy of the book out of the envelope that had, been shipped to me, and my son was standing next to me in this very room, in this very office, and I took it out of the envelope, and I was like, buddy, it's here. Like, this is real. Like, I can't believe it. And he looked me dead in the eye with his sweet face, and he said, Mom, you've done it. You're an author. Look at it. Look at your book. And he then flipped through it with me. And the pride that he had for me completely outweighed the pride that I even had for myself for having gotten it to that point. So after that, everything else felt like a bonus. Suddenly the stakes and the things I was afraid of people saying or thinking or doing or not believing in, it didn't matter, because I had gotten it to this point and my son was super proud of me and he called me by a new name. And sometimes other people have to call us by a new name for us to believe it. But we also have the power to call ourselves by anything we want. So I called myself an author before I held that book. And I sort of believed I was an author. But having my son call me an author, that it rang differently. So I think that, on our own journey of bravery, it's important to call ourselves by what we want to be and what we can be. But I think it's even more important than when we see other people on their journey of becoming the thing that they're probably scared to do, that we call them by that. You are a speaker, you are a teacher, you are an influencer, you are a whatever it is, a wonderful friend, an amazing caretaker, a compassionate parent. Whatever the things are that you see in somebody else as they are trying to be more brave and show up in that area of their life, call them by that name. It can completely change their whole trajectory and what they believe is possible for themselves. So call yourself by a name that feels scary, but then also call other people by that name. You can't underestimate the power that that can have over somebody's life. I think the other thing that sometimes gets us stuck is that avoiding doing the big scary thing can bring micro rewards to our nervous system. So if you want a promotion and you know that you need to ask for it or show up differently to work or show up differently for yourself, every time you don't do it, you get this little reward of, okay, I didn't do it. I'm safe for today. I didn't have to worry about if they would say you're not qualified or we're not hiring or what makes you think, all of these conversations that we come up with in our brain that probably aren't actually going to be how it goes. Every time we don't send the email, we don't ask for the promotion, we don't write the book, we don't record the podcast, all of the things that we talk ourselves out of doing, we get these micro rewards of, okay, it's okay, you're safe, you didn't do it, oh, you don't have to worry about what they say. Another day, tomorrow, we'll do it tomorrow, maybe tomorrow will be a better day, we'll feel brave. And I'm telling you, like, that can keep you stuck for so long. Take your what ifs and flip the script. So, what if I ask for the promotion and they say yes? How will that feel? What if I record the podcast and no one listens? How will that feel? Well, I'll still feel proud that I recorded the podcast, right? What if I record the podcast and everyone listens and everyone likes it? Whatever it is, ask yourself, like, when you hear these what ifs coming, because naturally they will, flip the script on yourself and see how you start to become more brave in your decision making. What if I go on this trip and it all goes wrong? Well, what if it goes right? What would that look like? What will that feel like? What about even if it goes wrong? What are the stories I'm going to come home with? The adventures that I went through? Everything with time, whether it goes well or doesn't, becomes a really great story. So, look at all of your different what ifs as a way to flip the script on making it turn into a positive for you, imagining it, visualizing like what it will look, feel, smell, taste like to have this thing that you're dreaming of but scared to do. And then if you still hear those doubts creeping into your mind, but what if, so what? So what? Am I truly in danger? Will this truly, if everything goes wrong, what will truly happen? Probably nothing. I think another way we get in this fear loop is that when we're trying to be brave, we're really worried about how we will look and what will people think about us. So, like, what if I fail? What if they say no? What if they judge me? What if I look stupid? What if I get rejected? And there's a couple things to unpack here. One, a lot of those thoughts, they can just show what a negative thought pattern that we're in. And telling those thoughts to stop, like, has been very helpful to me. Like, stop. I'm not going to look stupid. It's okay. Like, this isn't stupid. So stop talking like that. That's number one. The second thing, and I've told this to, my daughter a lot, going through those early teen years are rough for all of our kids. But I think so often, especially with social media and kids, these days getting so much input on everything that they're thinking, saying, doing. One of the things that I remember hearing a long time ago, and I say to myself a lot, is we spend a lot of time worrying about what other people are thinking about us. But the reality is they're probably not thinking about us at all. they're probably not thinking about us at all. They're thinking about their life and they're worried about what people are thinking about them. But in reality, most people aren't thinking about you. And if they are thinking about you, a lot of times it's positive. They're thinking about you in a positive light that you don't realize. Many, many times a day, people pop into my mind and I have thoughts of them, and hardly, if ever, are they negative. And if they are negative, I really try to give grace because I'm hoping grace is being given to me. So even if the thoughts are negative, I pray for them or I pray for myself to have a different mindset. But ultimately, most of the time people are thinking about you, they're thinking good thoughts. They're thinking about how they're proud of you, or how they can't believe that you're doing something big, or what they see is great or brave. And so one of the ways that I have become more brave is realizing people probably aren't thinking about me as much as I'm thinking about, are they thinking about me? And two, when I'm thinking about somebody else, I reach out to them if I can in that moment to tell them, hey, I was thinking about you today. I hope you're well. It's been great to see X, Y, or Z happening for you. The more that you put that out there, the more that becomes your lens on how you're thinking about others, and then ultimately how you're thinking about yourself. Because I've learned that the way I think about others really is a reflection of how I'm personally doing in myself. So if I'm thinking hard thoughts towards somebody else, it's because I'm actually feeling hard thoughts towards myself. So I would just encourage you that if you're in a bit of a negative loop, whether it be with other people or with yourself, to take a moment and realize most of the time what we're projecting out into the world is actually a mirror of what we're feeling inside. And so take that time to give yourself grace, to be proud of yourself, to think of some of the wins that you've had along the way, and to look back and remember all of the times that you have been brave and what happened as a result of it. Because you might have been brave in a relationship and had your heart broken. But what came out of it? You can find the good things that came out of it. You might have been really brave and asked for a promotion at work and not gotten it. But what came out of it? Well, what came out of it is the team that you report to knows that you're looking for more, and they're going to start giving you responsibilities to bring you to that level. Rejection is just redirection. That has been something super helpful in my life when I've been afraid. If I get rejected from something, it's going to redirect me where I need to be ultimately, because that's it. Life is going to take us on the path that we need most. And so rejection isn't truly rejection. It's just adjusting our path. So don't be afraid. Be not afraid. Fear, very rarely in today's day and age do we need to constantly live in this state of heightened fear. And I really lived there for a long, long time. And I can tell you that some of these tools, really have helped me get me out of that fear loop, of that worst case scenario mindset that, usually serves you the first time. Right. And so it's asking yourself, is this a pattern? Has this served me multiple times, or did it just serve me that one time and now my brain sees this as safe? Like, oh, well, but remember, because you didn't do that, that other thing didn't happen. And so don't ever do it. Listening to our gut is very important, but checking with our gut is equally important. And is this something that I truly need to be afraid of? If everything goes wrong in this scenario, will I still be okay? And will I leave this with new knowledge or insights that are going to serve me going forward? People rarely, like I said, are thinking bad thoughts of you, and so just let it go. And even if they are, who cares? Who cares? This is your life. This is your chance to go after the things that you want to go after. This is your life to seek adventure and to be able to look back and be proud of yourself for being brave. I love listening to stories of people on their deathbed. It's not morbid or anything, but it's such a sacred time. People have these incredible insights, and you never hear people who said, I'm so mad that I went after that thing that I was scared of. I'm so mad that I was so brave and showed up in so many areas of my life. It's usually the opposite. It's I shouldn't have waited to make that phone call, to say that thing, to write that book, to tell my story, to, it's always the regrets of what you didn't do versus what you did do. So I, because of my story, because of my health journey, I try to remember that the end is always near, whether that's 30 years from now or 3, or, we truly don't know, but like the end is going to be here before we know it, no matter how long that is. And I'm really trying to go after life in ways that I'm not going to have a lot of regrets of the things I didn't do. So we take the trip, we plan the adventure, we take the risk, you know, take it. Life is here for you to take what you want. So take it. Don't feel like you're too much. Don't feel like you're going to fail. Don't feel like it's stupid. Don't feel like you're going to be judged. Because if there's people that are going to judge you, they're going to do it anyway. They're going to judge you if you're too successful, and they're going to judge you if you're not successful enough. So might as well just go after it. Just go after it and be not afraid. A lot of times it's the uncertainty of not knowing what's going to happen as well. So something that's helped me kind of push through that is knowing any scenario is a good scenario if I've taken action towards what I want. So if the book is successful, great. If the book is just something that speaks to a few people, great. Either way, it's fine. In telling Joy's story, there was lots of ways I tried to talk myself out of her name, her story, her journey. Like I tried to talk myself out of a lot of parts of her story to make it appease everyone, to make it very easy to digest. But truly, it's the story that had to be first in the series. The world needs to know what the industry went through with COVID. The world needs to know the ways that they came together. The world needs to know that sometimes you can be very happy with your comfortable day-to-day life, and it can suddenly and instantly look very different, but it will be okay in the end. It will all come right. But in the coming right, it's not just sitting back and waiting, it's taking action in small ways that will get you towards your purpose again. So know that when you're talking yourself out of what you truly feel called to tell, to do, to say, to be, that there's a real reason why you were given this message, why the world needs to hear it. And if the only thing that ever came out of Joy's story is that people in the industry felt seen and understood and loved through something that was difficult, like it's totally worth it to me. Now, I know she's going to be so much more than that, and she already is. I had the privilege of being in Miami last week and meeting with different vendors and seeing the way that her story is resonating. It's such a gift. And I'm so excited for what's to come in the near future. And I can't wait to announce more as it unfolds. But just knowing that the heart came through the pages of both my words and the beautiful illustrations that Hannah did for our book, like knowing it came through is such a gift. And it wouldn't have come through if I would have edited out what I felt was her story and her journey. So know that that vulnerability is what people crave. It's what people are looking for from you. It's what people are looking for from me. And it's probably one of the things you're really afraid to say or do. So be brave. Be not afraid. All will be well if it's not already well. Another thing that has helped in multiple areas of my life is just taking one small step in the right direction. If it feels so big and so overwhelming, it's just taking that first step. When I'm writing the books, Sunny Stories coming next, and then we have Grace. But when I'm working through my creative process, the inspiration strikes as an overall theme in a story that I want to tell. But then oftentimes it's months that go by before I actually I would say put pen to paper, but I'm usually typing it into my phone because inspiration strikes at weird times. Um, but it's oftentimes months before the story truly comes together. So for me, it's been a word comes. So for me, with joy, like the ship must feel so happy, so joyful that people are back. And the ship Joy was born. Sunny's story, was how do we go from feeling dark and dreary and sad to feeling sunshine on our faces again? How do we find that feeling of happiness again when we're just trudging along? Sunny's name came to me and his story, realizing it's okay to need help and ask for a break. Grace's story came to me because I was starting to understand that I needed to give myself grace for all of the things that I perceived as failures in my own self and in my own being. Failures for being, too old, not tech savvy enough, not able to keep up with this younger, faster generation. All of these things that I was working through myself and realizing those were total nonsense. That is not my story at all. I am capable. I am super cool. All of these things, right, that I decided needed to be my new story. But that's where the story of Grace came along and how we have so much to give this younger generation. Even in the podcast, I really hope that people who are scared to join their first ship or don't know where to start or how to break into such an incredible industry, I hope that they can learn from all these stories of all the interviews that I will continue to do of people who have done it before. And all of us have done it scared. All of us walked on our first ship scared. And every time I joined a new ship, it was easier. You learn every time you go. How to work with different kinds of people, how to find your way around, how to make the right connections to get the things done that you need to get done to be successful in your job. All of those things became easier. But in the process of starting a new job in corporate America for the first time in 17 years and having to feel really uncomfortable with the things I didn't know how to do and feeling like a total loser for not knowing how to do some pretty basic things, that's where grace, that inspiration for grace came. Once I started giving myself that grace and just asking for help, it's not the end of the world. And so I'm so excited for you to see her journey and how she finds out that she is still so important and so needed in her little world too. So, but some old thought patterns would pop up of like, why haven't you done this yet? Why haven't you written the story yet? What are you doing? Why aren't you thinking? And it's because the process needs to be authentic. The story will come in the most unusual ways. Oftentimes I'll be driving, and bits of the stories will come to me, or just one page or just one rhyme will come, and I'll be like, okay, Laura, like remember that, so that when you can make a voice note or type it out, like you'll remember that. But it comes together in pieces. If I just was in a negative loop of like, you should have done this by now. Why haven't you written the book? Why haven't you gotten it over to Anna to illustrate? Like, why? It wouldn't have that same authentic feel that comes with giving yourself the time to really develop the story. But it's all in not being afraid. Like, I could also be very afraid that the stories won't keep coming, that the inspiration won't keep striking. What happens if I don't think of the next ship? What happens if we invest in product and nobody buys it? What happens if, and that's where you need to stop the fear and ask for the brave. And that has helped me move the needle the most in this time. It really is a gift when you start to recognize that fear rarely serves you. And so when you feel the fear come on, ask yourself, is this necessary? And if it is, then listen. But most of the time it's not. It's just us trying to protect ourselves from past disappointments. And past disappointments are just that, past disappointments. They don't need to be current disappointments. So checking in with yourself, slowing down enough to say, what is this actually about? Am I truly in danger? Most of the time, the answer is no. There's a lot of airplane flights that I have taken that I was terrified on, and all was well. Everything was fine. And, was there a legitimate fear there? It felt real. But I tell you what, it wasn't, because it's fine. Every flight landed safely. Almost all flights will. And if I happen to one day be on a flight that doesn't, that's okay too. All is well. Those are just some of the things that helped keep me going. It's a process. Being brave is not necessarily who we just are. Very few people just are their brave, unapologetic self. It's a process of showing up, checking in with ourselves all of the time, and asking ourselves truly, what is stopping me? And is what's stopping me serving me, or is it hurting me? Can I push through this uncomfortable time to get to the other side, knowing that what's on the other side is going to be super, super sweet for me? So I felt inspired this morning in light of being brave myself last week and having encouraged a lot of kids over the last couple of weeks to be brave in their next chapters, to share this with you. I hope it lands with whoever needs to hear it. Bravery is a practice that we get to work towards every single day. And each time we have a success for being brave, we get to feel really proud of ourselves and take that next step forward too. We don't just arrive at the destination of bravery. Fear will continue to try and creep its way in. But we have to check with ourselves and remind ourselves, we do it anyway. We do it brave. We do it scared. We do it uncertain. We do it certain. We just do it anyway. I hope today you make steps to go after the life that you are desperately trying to achieve. Make the phone call, take the first step. Don't talk yourself out of something that's going to be truly remarkable for you. Thank you for listening. I love you so much. Have a joyful rest of your day.